Good morning. Happy Sunday, y'all. Hope you had a good night. I slept pretty good. Had to get up at 2 a.m. because the dog decided he needed to go to the bathroom, which is not like him, but nothing is like him right now, the poor guy. But other than that, I slept pretty good. I had a good night. I got to sleep in a little. The dog is still out cold in the bedroom, and I have some time to myself out here with my cup of coffee. I'm not mad about it. All right, January 16th. You guys, hi Faith. I cannot believe we're at the halfway point of this month. January, I'm sorry, January, but it is my least favorite month of the year. I don't like it. It's usually colder, it's windy, it's icy, it's like Christmas is over. Poor January. Oh goodness, Amy. Burr. I'm glad you got your electricity back. I'd be getting out an electric blanket, I think. Yeah, it's flying by. And so in my mind, here's what I'm thinking. We can get through another 14 days, June and November, the 15 days of January. Then February is short. February flies by. 28 days in February. And then March comes. And March isn't always a great month winter-wise here in Maine, but it means April is coming. That's how my head works between January and March. It means we're almost to spring. Oh. All right. January 16th, Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. Genesis 42, 1 through 38, which was 1877 or 1711 BC. When Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive, otherwise we'll die." So you just read that, but I can almost hear Jacob saying, "Why are you fools standing around here looking at each other? Go get us some food." You can almost hear the annoyance with his sons in his voice. So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother, Benjamin, go with them, for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor over all of Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. We have come to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him, and he remembered the dreams he'd had about them many years before. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "No, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, "there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us." But Joseph insisted, "As I said, you are spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies." So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with grain for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth and that you will not die." To this they agreed. Speaking among themselves, they said, "Clearly we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we are in this trouble. "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen, and now we have to answer for his blood." Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simeon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sacks with grain, but he also gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment at the top of his sack. He also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded their donkeys with grain and headed for home. But when they stopped for the night, and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey, he found his money in the top of his sack. "Look," he exclaimed to his brothers, "my money has been returned. It's here in my sack." Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened. "The man who was governor of the land spoke very harshly to us," they told him. "He accused us of being spies, scouting the land. But we said we are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. One brother is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man who is governor of the land told us, "This is how I will find out if you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving families and go home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know that you are honest men and not spies. Then I will give you back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land." As they emptied their sacks, in each man's sack was a bag of money he had used to pay for the grain. The brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too? Everything is going against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back." But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving, white-haired man to the grave." The brothers returned to Egypt. Genesis 43, 1 through 18, 1876 or 1710 BC. By this time, two full years of the famine had passed. But the famine continued to ravage the land of Canaan. When the grain they had brought back from Egypt was almost gone, Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said, "The man was serious when he warned us, 'You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy more food. But if you don't let Benjamin go, we won't go either.' Remember," the man said, "you won't see my face again unless your brother is with you." "Why are you so cruel to me?" Jacob moaned. Why did you tell him you had another brother?" "The man kept asking us questions about our family," they replied. "He asked, 'Is your father still alive? Do you have another brother?' So we answered his questions. How could we know How could we know he would say, 'Bring your brother down here'?" Judah said to his father, "Send the boy with me, and we will be on our way. Otherwise, we will all die of starvation. And not only we, but you and our little ones. I personally guarantee his safety. You may hold me responsible if I don't bring him back to you. Let me bear the blame forever. If we hadn't wasted all this time, we could have gone and returned twice by now." Tony will say that to us sometimes. "If you guys would hurry up and get ready, we could have been there and back twice by now." That's literally what Jacob is saying. I can hear it in his tone too. If we hadn't wasted all this time, or not Jacob, but Judah, "If we hadn't wasted all this time, we could have gotten there and back twice by now, Dad. Come on." So their father, Jacob, finally listened to them. "If it can't be avoided, then at least do this. Pack your bags with the best products of this land. Take them down to the man as gifts: balm, honey, gum, aromatic resin, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Also, take double the money that was put back in your sacks, as it was probably someone's mistake. Then take your brother and go back to the man. May God Almighty give you mercy as you go before the man, so that he will release Simeon and let Benjamin return. But if I must lose my children, so be it." So the men packed Jacob's gifts and doubled the money and headed off with Benjamin. They finally arrived in the land of Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, "These men will eat with me this noon. Take them inside the palace. Then go slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast." So the man did as Joseph told him, and he took the brothers into the palace. The brothers were terrified when they saw they were being taken into Joseph's house. "It's because the money someone put in our sacks last time we were here," they said. "He plans to pretend that we stole it. Then he will seize us and make us slaves and take our donkeys." A feast at Joseph's palace, Genesis 43:19 through 34. The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance to the palace. "Sir," they said, we came to Egypt once before to buy food, but as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened our sacks. Then we discovered that each man's money, the exact amount we paid, was on top of his sack. Here it is. We have brought it back to you with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who put the money in our sacks." "Relax, don't be afraid," the household manager told them. "Your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment." Then he released Simeon and brought him out to them. The manager then led the men into Joseph's palace. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided food for their donkeys. They were told they would be eating there, so they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, they gave him gifts and they brought him gifts they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting them, he asked, "How is your father, the old man you spoke about? Is he still alive?" "Yes," they replied, "our father, your servant, is alive and well." And they bowed low again. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" Joseph asked. "May God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overcome with emotion for his brother. He went into his private room where he broke down and wept. After washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control. Then he ordered, "Bring out the food." The waiters served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table, because Egyptians despise Hebrews and refused to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from oldest to youngest. And Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave the others. So they feasted and drank freely with him. Joseph's silver cup, Genesis 44:1 through 17. When his brothers were ready to leave, Joseph gave these instructions to his palace manager: "Fill each of their sacks with as much grain as they can carry, and put each man's money back into his sack. Then put my personal silver cup at the top of the youngest brother's sack, along with the money for his grain." So the manager did as Joseph instructed him. The brothers were up at dawn and sent on their journey with their loaded donkeys. But when they had gone only a short distance and were barely out of the city, Joseph said to his palace manager, "Chase after them and stop them. When you catch up with them and ask them, 'Why have you repaid my kindness with such evil? Why have you stolen my master's silver cup, which he uses to predict the future? What a wicked thing you have done.'" When the palace manager caught up with the men, he spoke to them as he had been instructed. "What are you talking about?" the brothers responded. "We are your servants and would never do such a thing. Didn't we return the money we found in our sacks? We brought it back all the way from the land of Canaan. Why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If you find his cup with any one of us, let that man die, and all the rest of us, my lord, will be your slaves." "That's fair," the man replied, "but only the one who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go free." They all quickly took their sacks from the backs of their donkeys and opened them. The palace manager searched the brothers' sacks from the oldest to the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. When the brothers saw this, they tore their clothing in despair. Then they loaded their donkeys again and returned to the city. Joseph was still in his palace when Judah and his brothers arrived. They fell to the ground before him. "What have you done?" Joseph demanded. "Don't you know that a man like me can predict the future?" Judah answered, "Oh, my lord, what can we say to you? How can we explain this? How can we prove our innocence? God is punishing us for our sins, my lord. We have all returned to be your slaves, all of us, not just our brother who had your cup in his sack." "No," Joseph said, "I would never do such a thing. Only the man who stole the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go back to your father in peace." Judah speaks for his brothers, Genesis 44:18 through 34. Then Judah stepped forward and said, "Please, my lord, let your servant say just one word to you. Please do not be angry with me, even though you are as powerful as Pharaoh himself. My lord, previously you asked us, your servants, 'Do you have a father or a brother?' And we responded, 'Yes, my lord, we have a father who is an old man, and his youngest son is a child of his old age. Full brother his full brother is dead, and he alone is left with his mother's children, and his father loves him very much. And you said to us, 'Bring him here so I can see him with my own eyes.' But we said to you, 'My Lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for his father would die.' But you told us, 'Unless your youngest brother comes with you, you will never see my face again.' So we returned to your servant, our father, and told him what you had said. Later, when he said, 'Go back and buy us more food,' we replied, 'We can't go unless our youngest brother goes with us. We will never get to see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us.' Then my father said to us, 'As you know, my wife had 2 sons, and one of them went away and never returned. Doubtless he was torn to pieces by some wild animal. I have never seen him since. Now, if you take his brother away from me, and any harm comes to him, you will send this grieving, white-haired man to his grave. And now, my lord, I cannot go back to my father without the boy. Our father's life is bound up in the boy's life. If he sees the boy is not with us, our father will die. We, your servants, will indeed be responsible for sending that grieving, white-haired man to his grave. My lord, I guaranteed to my father that I would take care of the boy. I told him, if I don't bring him back to you, I will bear the blame forever. So please, my lord, let me stay here as a slave instead of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. For how can I return to my father if the boy is not with me? I couldn't bear to see the anguish this would cause my father." Joseph reveals his identity, Genesis 45, 1 through 15. Joseph couldn't stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's place. "I am Joseph," he said to his brothers. "Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. "Please, come closer," he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you, and he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of this entire palace and the governor of all of Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, 'This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt, so come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all of your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, your household and all of your animals will starve.' Then Joseph added, 'Look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go, tell my father of my honored position here in Egypt. Describe for him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly.' Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them after they had began talking freely with him." Okay. I love how he messed with their heads. They got what they deserved. Well, they didn't quite get what they deserved. But messing with their heads was just as good. All right, let's do Trim Healthy Mama, 100 Days of Inspiration. We are on day 16. I don't know if the camera's picking up that sound. My stomach is growling. I am starved. I am ready for brekkie. Okay, day 16, a new vision. The table in your home is not only a place to eat some food and then run. It's a place to also feed the soul and the spirit. It's a place for stimulating conversation and learning new things. It's a place to challenge our thinking. In the Gospels, we read when Jesus came to a meal, he always taught something new. He exposed deceptions. He challenged thought patterns. He uncovered hypocrisy. You can read some of these examples in Matthew, Luke, and John. Invite Jesus to your table. It will no longer be boring. Talk about life and what is happening in each other's lives. Ask questions. Bring subjects to the table to discuss: theological, spiritual, geographical, or political. At our table, we laugh a lot. We discuss and sometimes debate. We don't always agree, but this makes for stimulating conversation. My husband says we don't have to agree with one another, but we do have to love one another. Ask God for a new vision for your table. Don't only think about what you will eat, but also what you will talk about. Come prepared with a subject to discuss. Challenge each other's thinking. Invite Jesus to steer your conversation, teach you new things, and lead you in truth. Nancy. Tasting his goodness. Psalms 34:8. Tell us, oh, taste. Psalm 34:8 tells us, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. God has given us the gift of food as medicine. We can taste of his goodness daily, yet many people are tasting only perversions of food, twisted and devitalized, hardly recognizable in their original form. This is not of the bounty of his goodness. The above verse is first spiritual in meaning, but it does have a practical application. As Christians, we thank the Lord for our food and ask him to bless the meal, but sitting down to fast food burgers, fries, and soda, is this really his food? The white, devitalized buns, the meat that may likely be only 50% meat and 50% who knows what, the potatoes fried in trans fat vegetable oils, the soda that contains 8 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. Are these his gifts? If such a meal is all that is available, we believe he could supernaturally provide us with sustenance through these foods. But choosing these corrupted foods regularly is asking for a lot of miraculous power when he's already provided us with the good stuff. The word trusteth in the last part of this verse is often translated as take refuge in. While it is just as much a pitfall to get caught in perfectionism when it comes to the purity of foods, you've also got to be sensible. And it doesn't make sense to allow our bodies to be constant receptacles for garbage. Only he knows the number of our days, and food isn't everything. But let's keep the majority of our diet nutritionally rich and taste of his natural protection. Serene and Pearl. I love that, because if there is one thing I have learned over the last year and a half of being 100% on plan, is that it's not all about making foods diet so they'll help me lose weight. It's not all about just eating foods that are going to help me lose weight. It's about the health that these foods provide and the nutrients that I get from the individual foods, like the kefir that I've been making. 2 years ago, if you had told me I was going to put milk out on my counter for 24 to 48 hours until it tasted sour, because drinking it not only would taste good when I mixed berries in, but the probiotics that it would give me would be healing to my body and to my gut and helping me build immunity and all of these amazing properties. I'm eating that kefir and sauerkraut and all that stuff because of the nutritional value it provides to my body. And when you really stop and appreciate the foods that are going into your body and you think about the nourishment you get from those things, it changes your perspective on your dinner plate. And so that's one of the reasons I've been doing lots of superfood or just food spotlights on Patreon to talk about the nutritional properties of things like broccoli and what a plate of broccoli brings to your body. I think when you know those things, it helps you enjoy them even more, even if they're not your favorite food. It gives you some perspective on what you're putting in your body. So, anywho, called to love. Starts with suggested edit. I don't know why that's there. I don't think that should be there. I think that's a typo. In 1 John 4:20, we read, if a man says, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he loveth not his brother whom he hath seen. But can he love God whom he hath not seen? The Greek word for brother translates both literally and figuratively. A brother or sister is someone who is part of our lives. Maybe God put them there for a reason. This is why family and relationships are so important. Maybe this is also why Satan targets families. Siblings have quarreled since the beginning, much like they often do now. By keeping us from loving the Father, Satan tempts us to hate our brother. What really hits me is the part in the verse where the brother is seen, but God is not. God is the most important one that we love, and he isn't seen. It should be easy to love someone who is seen, like our brothers and sisters, yet many of us don't. Okay, that's right. You have to love your neighbor, and that is hard when the country is as divided as it is, and we're still called to love everyone. That is hard. when politics polarize us the way they do, and it's an us and them culture, and everything is a them and us culture, it's very hard to love your brother, isn't it? And by brother, it's hard to love fellow believers if they don't agree with everything that we believe, if they're not exactly on the same path as us politically, morally. It's hard to love your brother. And it's even hard to love those who are not. It's even harder to love those who are not on the same path spiritually as us. But that's what we're called to do. Whether they agree with us or not, we're called to love. We're not called to change their mind. We're called to love them, and that will change their mind. That is a challenge. It's a challenge for me. I have to work on it every day. I have to think every day about the love that is required of me. Excuse me, I'm sleepy. All right, I think I need to finish my dough. I need to go have some breakfast. I'm going to have oatmeal for breakfast this morning. I'm going to put cauliflower in it again. Because the other day, even though I didn't love the cauliflower in my food, by the end of the bowl, I started to enjoy it a little bit. And so today I'm going to cook my cauliflower before I put it in my oatmeal, and then cook it again. And hopefully it will hide the taste a little more, and I'm going to enjoy a nice big bowl of oatmeal. So, all right, you guys, I love you all. I hope you have a blessed Sunday. I hope you get some rest. I hope you get some time with fellowship with your friends, your family, or at home, whatever you choose to do. I hope that you are blessed today in whatever you do. And I will see you back tomorrow morning for more joyful daily devotions and for some breakfast on a holiday. I think it's a holiday. Is it a nationwide holiday? Martin Luther King Day tomorrow, right? So, all right, you guys, I love you all. Have a blessed day, and I will see you back soon.